I know what you're thinking, is this grown-ass man really gonna rant about princesses? Yes. And there is nothing you can do about it. So a few days ago, my girlfriend and I went to watch the new live-action Snow White movie in theaters, which, if you've seen the trailer, you might wonder why I spent money buying tickets for a movie that even Disney had so little faith in, they basically cancelled its premiere. Now, but as the first animated movie I had ever seen as a kid, Snow White has always had a special place in my heart, especially Dopey. I love that silly goof. So even though my expectations were pretty low, deep inside, I still had a little bit of that childish excitement that somehow, someway, they were going to surprise me. My childish excitement was wrong, and quickly turned into confused regret for the entire duration of the movie. Stupid. And while I'll go into more detail of live-action Snow White in a bit, initially this movie just reminded me of the fact that for the past 6 years now, every time I go see a Disney-owned movie or series or spend $60 on a game of a franchise I once loved and they now own, it always ends up making my day a little bit worse. Except for their ever-growing theme park prices and queues. Those make my day a lot worse. Disney 2D animation, Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar, Fox, Mike Wazowski from Monsters Inc. Hell, Pirates of the Caribbean, which at this point I almost forgot even existed. Disney now owns literally everything I loved growing up, and most of their movies didn't even include racism or pedophilia.
Okay. It's a date.
Hey, could you stop doing that? So then why does Disney suck now? Well, to start off, these god-awful live-action movies destroying every beloved IP they themselves created certainly aren't helping. See, before the release of the live-action Snow White movie, I sat through every prior live-action remake Disney had ever made. Oh man. And yes, this does include 2010 The Apprentice with Nicolas Cage.
Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah?
Kidding.
Now, while I hadn't watched most of these live-action remakes to protect my few precious childhood memories I still had, I was already aware of the fact that everyone was getting slightly annoyed with that. The Aladdin remake sucks. Disney's Pinocchio remake is insultingly bad. All Disney remakes bad. I hate live-action Disney remakes. However, I thought, going into this, that they were going to be overhated and would just be soulless but still enjoyable carbon copies of their original animated versions, since I like most of their original stories. I'll be the first to admit I was wrong. Most of these movies suck and are not hated nearly enough. To call these accurate copies of their original works would be an insult to printers.
Screw you, asshole.
I said I was sorry. However, I noticed that these didn't start out horribly. I know what happened, but the early adaptations were actually somewhat faithful. I thought live-action Beauty and the Beast was mostly true to the original. Both featured a quirky girl with Stockholm Syndrome discovering her furry fetish. Both had a sexist douche who'd probably watch Andrew Tate unironically if he could. And both featured a freakishly horny candle that desperately wanted to get laid. But as I progressed throughout all of these movies, I started noticing that the more recent the release, the more devoid of magic, soulless, and less inspiring, passionate, and faithful to the originals they became. The genie from Aladdin went from wild comedic whirlwind to Will Smith being Will Smith.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Peter Pan and Dumbo, both of which I remember loving as a kid for their silly and vibrant goofiness, became lifeless and borderline depressing in live action. If I showed this to my little sister, she probably wouldn't dare to sleep without a light on for 2 weeks. I sure haven't. I see its face whenever I close my eyes. Pinocchio lost all of its emotional depth. Mulan is the perfect example, and I'm curious about yours, so let me know in the comments, but was by far the live-action adaptation I hated the most. I cannot express how disgraceful this adaptation is towards the original version, to the point midway through, I had to start playing RuneScape on my second monitor while watching to distract myself from getting too angry. Maybe I should play some more RuneScape. See, the original version was loosely based on the ancient Chinese tale of Mulan, and an inspiring story of emancipation for a daughter of a nobleman, forced to live a strict and subservient life against her will, then risking it all to save her old man from being drafted in a war even though women weren't allowed as soldiers. Yet against all odds, she infiltrated the army dressed as male, and through training and courage became a competent soldier.
Boy's an absolute lunatic.
Not only showcasing that the individual matters more than the genitalia you were born with, but also what you can achieve through sheer willpower. And it definitely didn't hold back showing her flaws. Sure, by the end of the movie, she was a competent warrior, but at the start though, she got her ass handed to her so much, they made an entire song about it.
You're the saddest bunch I ever met.
The remake? Well, has none of that. Mulan's a superhero now? I gotta make sure this movie isn't too relatable to our human viewers. She doesn't need training to survive a war. All she needs is the power to believe in herself. Maybe she could give an inspirational TED talk about it. They also cut every joyful song out of this movie, as well as comedic relief character Mushu. Lest we have some fun while watching it, cutting off her long hair to showcase her deeply rooted dedication to her selfless heroic beliefs? No, see, that would be too historically inaccurate according to the director. We want realism over here. What are we, Disney or something? Oh, wait. Also, could you make her jump 20 feet into the air to kick an arrow so hard it instantly kills the villain from 100 feet away, okay? Oh, and add a teleporting wizard that can turn into birds. Now that's historically accurate for sure. This remake in itself can only be described as one of the worst viewing experiences for human eyeballs I have ever had, and from the start is completely ruined by the editing alone. Just look at the constant cutting they do in the scene where child Mulan is chasing a chicken.
No!
Some of them aren't even angle switches, but more so look as if they just cut a few frames out of the movie. What are you trying to visualize here? That the cameraman is as clumsy as Mulan? This is just nauseating. The scene right after, you have like this 11-second shot of the villain getting shot at with a single arrow, grabbing it mid-air and then shooting it back, which for some reason warrants 18 cuts. Yes, I had to rewatch it in slow motion to count them all. Why did they do this? Did they think this would keep the viewer engaged? It just looks stupid. If they wanted engagement, they should have played Subway Surfers on the side instead. But the predominant reason I found this specific adaptation particularly infuriating might be because my first ever long-term relationship was with an adopted Chinese girl who got dropped off at a Chinese orphanage as a baby because of how China by far favored sons over daughters back then, because of their one-child rule. Thus she took a lot of emotional support out of the animated Mulan movie.
You are a disgrace! You will never bring your family honor!
And I could see how deeply Mulan touched her, because for her, in a way, it heavily critiqued the tragedy that had happened to her as a baby so gracefully. It ended up becoming her comfort Disney movie. Yeah, but don't these wall runs look sick though? Could have looked cooler with more cuts. Why would I ever let my hypothetical kids watch this version? That'd be like making them watch a lifeless live-action version of The Lion King over the emotionally expressive animated one, where instead of seeing the visceral reactions of beloved characters to the tragedies happening around them, you just have like a bunch of lions hanging around.
What am I gonna do?
Hey Simba, your dad just died? Maybe frown a little bit? Oh wait, you can't, cause you're a realistically CGI'd lion. These poorly made live-action movies are pushing Disney to a point where their own IPs can't keep them alive anymore, because that's what happens when you alienate both your adult and child audience for almost a decade straight. And no, this didn't magically change with Snow White. I wish it had, so I wouldn't have felt as bad for wasting $40 on it, but I guess I can take solace in the fact that because of my impeccable skill in going to watch bad movies, my local theater will survive bankruptcy for another day. Because I'm pretty sure that I'm the only person who still goes there.
It's so empty in here. I got startled.
I will try to keep this section spoiler-free for the 5 people still interested in paying to go watch this movie, and I know a lot of people are reacting to it as if it's as bad as 2010's live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I personally disagree with. Was it a good movie? No, it was still pretty bad, like a 5 out of 10, but it was better than Mulan, which isn't a high bar to cross since that movie deserves a 0 out of 10, but it also wasn't as bad as I feel most people expected it to be after just how terrible the marketing was. The only thing I can personally even recall is Rachel Ziegler disrespectfully criticizing the original version, scaring people that the remake was going to take one huge dump on it.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
But also, Ziegler was like 20 back then, and I remember having some arrogant, non-thought-out opinions at that age, so I didn't really care. Plus, it's not like she was entirely wrong. The original Disney Snow White movie did feature an 18-year-old guy chasing a 14-year-old girl, according to this official Walt Disney book, which is fucking weird. And I'm happy to say that after all of the backlash and like 2 years of delays, they clearly rewrote the entire movie and tried to piss off fewer people. Problem now being that while watching it, I could visibly notice the rewrites. Why did they do it like that? And that's not something you should be able to see, so while faithful to the original in some places, a lot of what they changed felt completely disjointed, with build-up plot lines that ended up going nowhere, and forgettable characters I'm pretty sure were just a remnant from the original remake script they didn't know how to fully write out, so now they were just there. And in my opinion, the entire thing basically fell apart a little before the third act when Snow White takes a bite from the apple, causing her to suffer from sleeping death. Oh fuck, that's a huge spoiler! Stupid. But I'll say that the acting was decent overall, outside of the occasional skibbity over-expression. I'm Snow White and I'm sad. I've gotta save the people of my kingdom. Rachel Ziegler did a decent job playing a titular character for the first time. Hell, even Gal Gadot, who as far as I've seen, isn't the best actress out there.
Max Lord, you're putting yourself and everyone else in grave danger. I need you to give me the stone. What happened to it? Kalel, no.
Was alright at playing a deeply evil queen, which, I guess that makes sense. I'm just kidding. Her performance was still pretty bad. The biggest crime that this movie committed was that it ended up feeling like yet another uninspired live-action Disney remake. Only difference being that at least this one wasn't so depressing to sit through. At least it had some joyful music. But then again, it did end up costing me $40, so screw you, Disney, you can kiss my ass! And I know that some of you might say I'm being overly critical here because even though I have eternal baby face, I'm also a 26-year-old who has just been complaining about princess movies marketed toward kids for 12 minutes straight. But that excuse doesn't work when the originals were arguably more kid-friendly than the remakes, yet still held at least double the quality and complexity in storytelling, with 10 times the amount of life lessons to be inspired by. And fewer cuts.
Very carefully.
If you think that a movie can be bad because it's made for kids, you severely underestimate the capability of thought one already has at the age of 10. As long as you don't give him an iPad. There is a reason Disney has, up until last decade, built its empire on both children and adults. And Disney adults.
This is what dreams are made of.
titles. It's because their IPs were enjoyable for everyone. Now no one's enjoying them because the now parents who grew up watching the originals won't take their kids to the remakes they hate. Except for Disney dolls, because they'll watch anything. Ooh, but luckily they still have their other big franchises to keep me interested, like Marvel and Star Wars and... What? How did you screw up Star Wars? And how did you screw it up 10 times? Yeah, so also let me know in the comments which franchise ruined by Disney hurts you the most inside. I know there are many to pick from, but for me, by far, it's Star Wars. Which probably doesn't come as a big surprise, since every couple of videos, I'll haphazardly start ranting about it.
A good question. For another time.
Which I am totally not still mad about. And while I could express my personal grievances with the path the entire franchise has taken under Disney for like 3 hours straight, I am also aware that has already been done by like 5,000 other creators. However, after having watched most of these videos, there's always a recurring theme of criticism, which is that every new Star Wars movie, show, or game, or spin-off is an uninspired rehash or nostalgia bait, or they're just alternating between the same 5 characters to do cameos, so that even though what we're watching sucks, we'll still go, oh my god, it's the guy? It's the guy from the good Star Wars before Disney made it bad Star Wars. Wait, no, stay out of bad Star Wars. I'm so glad they made an entire show about my favorite character. I hope next time they'll actually write a story for it too. And it's exactly the same for Marvel at this point, which makes sense, since I feel like when Disney bought Star Wars around the same time the MCU became an infinite money printer, they wanted to convert Star Wars into its own MCU. And I guess they succeeded, because now they're both equally disinteresting to me. However, a point of criticism that I think does not get brought up nearly enough, which is personally my biggest complaint, is that all of their new media feels as if it's made to be watchable without needing to put in even the least bit of thought. You know, in a show like Severance, which I cannot recommend enough and is a staple for what a passion project combined with creative freedom can accomplish, would let the viewer figure out what's going on naturally by just letting the story flow. But while Disney doesn't have that anymore, we now gotta have every character verbally spell out every single plotline, every single event that ever happened in their lives and the universe we should get invested in, because God forbid they actually give their viewers the opportunity to engage in their developing storyline themselves. Every new Disney release feels like it just wants to verbally cram every little bit of information about the universe we're diving into in the first 5 minutes of the show and repeat it over and over again. A sequel of my favorite Marvel hero is releasing. I'm so excited. Last time I saw him, he decided to let trillions of living beings die to save the universe. I can't wait to see how they explore his response to the sacrifice and if he could have made a different decision.
Very sorry.
Thank you. I guess what keeps me up at night is wondering, did it have to happen that way? Was there any other path?
No, I made the only play we had.
Well, I guess not. But what about the love of his life? Last time I know, she had to spend 5 years without him. I can't wait to slowly explore their complicated relationship throughout this movie.
The best surgeon and the best superhero. But you still didn't get the girl.
And clearly he's not happy about it. Glad I got all of the answers to my questions within the first 6 minutes of the movie, and I already know that the rest of this entire thing is gonna be about him having to accept the fact he didn't get the girl.
It's not that I don't want to care for someone or have someone care for me. It's just...
A follow-up to Thor Ragnarok? That movie was pretty good. I wonder what this one will be about.
Admire your commitment to each other. It's a beautiful thing. Alas, it's something I'll never have.
After thousands of years of living, you don't seem to know who the hell you are. My hope for you is that one day you will find something to make you feel this shitty.
I have loved before. It didn't work out. They either die a grismal death or they dump you with a handwritten letter. I don't know which is worse, but it's why I keep everyone at arm's length.
I have a hunch that this is gonna be about him having to find connection, which he probably will at the end of the movie.
I love you, sweetie.
Love you, Uncle Phil.
I'm so glad they made the characters spell it all out for me. I was beginning to worry I'd actually have to notice his character developing myself. Like, do you think I'm stupid? Just show me everything at a natural pace and let me discover the story and intricate relationships between characters myself. And I think this is done deliberately, by the way. See, there's this new trend where film studios will intentionally dumb down their projects so that viewers can still follow along while scrolling on their phones. But if I can't follow a story of a show I put on because I'm unable to lay down my phone for just 1 minute, then that's on me. You don't need to punish everyone else for my phone addiction. Instead of dumbing down your movie, you should make it so good that I forget about my phone addiction while watching it. So yes, every single movie should now be the entire 12-hour long extended cut of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. If you don't show respect to my intelligence as a viewer, then why should I show appreciation for your show or movie? And I don't think this is necessarily a director or writer's problem, but more so a company executives forcing them to do this for increased profit potential problem. Which, oh my god, what I can't stand most of all is how Disney is deflecting criticism from their viewers trying to vocalize that, hey, we don't like what you're doing here, by having some out-of-touch Disney executive blame it on Star Wars fatigue and superhero fatigue. I'm not tired of the new Star Wars movies. I'm tired of the fact I've only been able to enjoy one of them.
Save the rebellion! Save the dream!
Give me more Mandalorian Season 1 and 2, or Andor, and I'll watch it. I beg you. I'm not tired of Marvel because of Avengers Endgame. I went to the premiere of Spider-Man No Way Home and thoroughly enjoyed it, even though the entire thing got spoiled to me beforehand because of the leaked script. I love these franchises. When they're well done, what I'm experiencing right now is bad movie fatigue. Because I'm tired of the constant disappointment you're making me pay for. Or, well, guess I'm just stupid enough to keep paying for it, so I guess I'll just stop doing that. And at this point, I just feel like the only reason they're creating new shows and movies is to serve the purpose of really long, badly written merchandise ads. Oh my god, this new Baby Yoda toothbrush though? No, I won't buy it, no. Everything they're touching is slowly dying. Games? Read it and weep, loser. Yet another boring and buggy mess. So few people went to the new Captain America movie that it actually ended up saving lives when a theater collapsed during one of its screenings. Thanks, Disney. Wow, new look at Ironheart premiering June 24th on Disney Plus? And I couldn't care less. The Thunderbolts are going to be in Avengers Doomsday? And I'm not interested. And their ever-increasing prices in exchange for less value doesn't really help. Remember the Galactic Star Cruiser, which you could stay at for the low price of $1,200 a night? So that's becoming an office space now. Which I guess is the perfect allegory of what happens when your company that was once built on fulfilling people's fantasies and creating dreams turning into a short-sighted analytical profit calculator. So Disney, Walt, if you're watching this from the freezer they're keeping your decapitated head at, maybe start looking at your consumers as if they were, people. With intelligence and complexity instead of lobotomized walking dollar signs that you can just algorithmically exploit by key jingling low quality nostalgia in front of. Okay, now I gotta stop this video because otherwise I'm not gonna be able to stop myself from buying this toothbrush.